Hi, I hope that you are doing as well as you possibly can in this moment. And for faculty who are in the midst of transitioning online, I have a special treat for you. There are a variety of folks that we've been elevating this week, but I'm really delighted to finally be able to bring someone from Arizona State. They have been in the midst of transitioning. I think it was 63,000 students online last week. I don't know how many we're doing this week, but I am really excited to bring you someone who is the manager of instructional design and professional development at ASU. And it is Vicki Harmon. Vicki, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
It's my pleasure. It's been crazy.
I'm sure it's a wild ride right now. Especially I find instructional design folks and teaching and learning folks, it's like, we staff those divisions for the old world when it was, a few courses at a time, a few faculty at a time, and now you're the most popular person at Arizona State.
We are. I was just going to say we've been at it for a while now, so
yeah.
We probably have a head start, or we had a head start in terms of being set up for technology and so forth to make this change happen. So we're pleased to share what we have learned.
Yeah, and I don't know if folks know that at ASU, President Crow has been focused on this, and they've been convening about COVID for quite some time. They had one of the earlier cases, and so they actually did a test go live date long before all of where we are right now, where they actually took all courses online as a prep to make sure that they had stress test the system, which is something that I know the rest of us wish we'd had the foresight to do. So.
Absolutely.
So let's talk quickly about what advice are you giving to faculty when they're reaching out to you, and what are you trying to assemble in terms of the wisdom that will help in this moment as they're trying to go virtual quickly?
Sure. My first piece of advice is just to breathe. This morning has been crazy hectic for me personally, as I know it is many of our faculty who out there. We are in week 2 now of being fully online. So just taking care of yourself, I guess, is the first piece of advice that I would give. And just realizing where you are, taking stock in what your technical abilities are, what resources are available to you. One of the first things I would suggest is to identify the resources that your university may have available to you. So what are your technical resources? Do you have friends or colleagues that have taught online? And if so, can they assist you in getting more comfortable with the technologies? Build community with your students. So, a lot of times we think students are really very technologically astute, and that's really not the case. We find that with the students who are in 100% online degree programs. We make assumptions about what they know and can do on the computer, and in most cases, that assumption far exceeds their abilities. So we want to watch that. Another piece of advice I'd have is to really embrace the medium. So if you're not, if you haven't taught online or done a whole lot online before, that's okay. Just acknowledge that with your students and make sure that you let them know, you're all in this together. I've been watching a lot of videos come across on the pandemic instructional design Facebook page.
I think we're having a Wi-Fi issue, which is something I think all of us who are...
their children will run across the aisle or something like that. So there's lots of things that you can do.
Vicki, I think you cut out for a little bit just because of Wi-Fi, which is actually really topical, because this is going to happen in every class. And you just roll with it, because everyone's a human being in this moment, and everyone's Wi-Fi is going to be going weird at certain moments. This is not a moment for perfection. This is not a moment for large judgment and harsh expectations. This is a lot of grace, and students will appreciate if you're honest about the things you're struggling with, because frankly, it makes you accessible and relatable.
Well, and the other piece that does is it shows that you're human, right? And that you need to allow perhaps for some flexibility that, let's say you're a pretty strict face-to-face instructor, and you may need to provide flexibility deadlines or flexible deadlines. You need to be empathetic and flexible. So anything you can do to help students become at ease as well, because understanding students are having a tough time, so some of their parents may have lost their jobs. They may have lost their jobs and all of a sudden have that added stress of providing for their family. So at ASU, we did not cancel any classes. We originally said we were going to go online for 2 weeks, and then several days later, it became apparent that that wasn't going to happen. We were going to have to extend to the end of the semester.
Yeah, and that's, I just was participating in another call where that's pretty much true across the board at this point. And I think this is the new normal for the minute. But I would say you're in a unique position because with Ed Plus, this is not you're not transitioning to a new world. This is something that is actually a preferred medium for a large swath of your student population. And so what are people what are things that are great about online that people might in the moment when we're focused on just like, oh, I can't get Zoom to work? Where do you see the opportunity that folks could maybe kind of lean into in the midst of that frustration about technology?
Right. So leaning into it, I think that's a good way to describe it. It's really important that you keep things simple. So at ASU, initially, we had an institution-wide enterprise license to Zoom a year ago. So a lot of our faculty have been using Zoom for meetings and things, perhaps maybe not for their online class or for their face-to-face classes, but they've used them for meetings and perhaps some virtual office hours. But the medium really does provide a lot of opportunity for students. I mean, if you're having a face-to-face discussion in a lecture class and students are not broken into groups, you're not using active learning, you may have 4 or 5 students ask questions, but if you have discussions on Zoom or you build a discussion board in your learning management system, then every student has to participate. And there are so many resources out there to help faculty succeed. Again, move in small steps in what you're comfortable with, but going online via Zoom for 2 weeks is one thing, but we're in week 2 of our 7.5-week term. In our 15-week terms, they've been going a long time, but they've still 5 weeks to go. So is doing a Zoom meeting alone enough to take you to the end of that term? Mm-hmm. And each faculty, I think, has to figure that out for themselves. I hope that those who have been hesitant to do anything online will come away with a new understanding of what it takes and how much pre-planning is required, how much can actually be done online. I mean, you and I are having a conversation today. I've never met you. It seems natural, right? So if people share their
oh, it's happening again. We're having a little bit of a Wi-Fi delay, but I think that you're back now. So
okay.
That's, again, this is going to happen. This is very normal.
Yes. So I think this also, I mean, not for those of you who are teaching temporarily online, but if you look at online as online programs and online classes that are designed to be online, there's so many things that you can do. And of course, you've got students from around the world, whereas in your local institutions in a face-to-face class, diversity may be restricted to several regions or several countries and so forth. So there's lots of opportunities afforded through the online environment. So I encourage you to embrace what you're comfortable embracing.
I was yesterday, so my aunt is a professor at MIT, and I have been helping her take her courses online. And I was talking to her yesterday, and checking in on, at first I'd get her on Zoom and all that kind of stuff. And now it's about a week in, and she said that she thinks it's already making her a better teacher, because she's like, it doesn't, for people who like status and being separate from their students, they probably won't like it. But I'm in here, I cannot, I can't just distance myself, and I can't just take a break. I'm staring at the camera. I've got their faces right here. I can see their feedback. I can see if they're not engaged, and I know that I have to adapt. And I think that was a powerful insight, that there are upsides in this moment in terms of your teaching practice. There, if you're open to it, once we get through this first period, okay, I'm not saying surf the wave this week, but after you start getting more routine, you're going to probably see ways to enhance your teaching practice that you might not have had the opportunity to see previously. Like, for instance, you might be recording your classes and actually see your delivery and observe perhaps things that you might want to work on. And so I just think we have to focus on the silver linings when we can find them.
Well, like you say, those faculty who are teaching face-to-face, we have a shop that we do for our faculty who teach in online degree programs called Masterclass for Teaching Online. And one of the things that we hear all the time is that the skills, excuse me, the skills and practices they learn in that class, intended and designed for online delivery, contributes to the betterment of their face-to-face classes. So they might flip their classroom, they might do more active learning, they might try new strategies, whereas perhaps they've been teaching the same way for a number of years, and this gives them the opportunity to build that out. So, but again, you have to take it slow. We don't want people putting 15 tools in their class and hoping that that's going to be okay, because that's not realistic. So keep technology initially at a minimum, what you're comfortable with, so you don't want to get yourself to where you are so stressed with the technology that your students sense that stress. So I encourage people to watch their attitudes, because that really does come across to their students. I mean, it's one thing to admit that you are in a new world and uncomfortable, but it's another thing to be naysaying, the experience as well. So I always want to be supportive of our students and encouraging them to support their students, and while maintaining their own personal attitudes and taking care of themselves as faculty.
Yeah,
that's important.
I agree. I think every one of us has to be doing everything we can to maintain kind of our own whatever it's going to take to protect your peace. But especially I just have so much admiration for faculty and right now who are, you're going through a traumatic crisis with the rest of the country, and higher education did not plan COVID. And so the idea that we had a secret plan to address this, or that we somehow are supposed to fix all of it, it's just, no, everyone's in it together. And, but navigating that while also trying to teach, trying to impart knowledge and to provide a sense of assurance to students who are terrified. I feel like what they're doing right now is incredibly brave. And so that's why, we've focused our efforts on trying to elevate and amplify voices who can help them, because we know that right now, we're all in it together. So I just so appreciate you taking the time to share what you know and help us a bit here. I'm super excited to hear about the master class. I'm guessing that's just for ASU faculty, but we should talk about how we could maybe modularize that to.
Well, we are actually putting together a version of that that will be non-facilitated. Ours is heavily facilitated, but we are going to have a version available to ASU faculty who teach face-to-face, and it's also going to be put out on edX, so it will be available to the world. We really do see at ASU, it's our responsibility as having been at this for a while, helping those who are dumped in the pool, so to speak, as I look outside and see the nice water. I mean, that's part of working from home, right? But helping those and providing the resources. There are so many resources out there. We're looking at it, our responsibility to help curate some of those resources and put the best resources forward, because we know time is limited. I know now people are probably getting the experience of the amount of emails that come through as a result of teaching online, and helping faculty develop strategies for dealing with those emails. I mean, that's a huge one. We hear it all the time. So if I've got a class of 200 face-to-face, then if each one of them sent me one question, then I've got 200 emails all of a sudden. And so how do I manage that? And so, you know, we have some strategies that we use to help our faculty deal with just some of those common everyday things that happen.
I love that. So that's something that, of all the folks that we brought forward, that's a new insight for us to focus on.
Yeah.
That makes total sense.
Huge.
I don't think we've been warning folks about it. Great.
So what we do in our online classes is we have something we call the community forum. It can also be called hallway conversations. We used to call it that, but now we call it community forum. It's just a discussion forum where we try to build course community. And so we ask students if they have questions about the class to put them there. So rather than, as an instructor, rather than me answering 10 emails on the same question, if a student posts it in the class in the discussion forum called community forum, then I can answer it once, and all of the other students can benefit from the response rather than having to answer every single email that comes in. So if it's not of a personal nature, we have them put it there. The other thing it does is it crowdsources. So students can help students. So again, we're building a learning community, not just a group of disparate students, but we're making them collectively responsible for the success of the class. And it works real well. We have it in all of our online courses.
So when I go to conferences, they sometimes do that where you can upvote a question. So is there, you use community forum, is that an ASU specific thing, or is that something other people can use?
It's just a discussion forum, and community forum is the title of the discussion. So no matter what learning management system people are using, if they're using Zoom alone, then that is not going to work very well for them, unless they do something like having a Google Doc. So you could have, if you're using Zoom and you are not using an LMS, if you're using Zoom and you have access to a Google Doc, you could do the same thing in a Google Doc, where students could put their questions in the Google Doc and they could be answered there. So again, just managing emails is a huge time sink for online faculty until they learn how to use some strategies to make that work.
Okay, that is super helpful. Well, I will, I know there are a few technology solutions out there that someone can supplement Zoom to do that, and I will compile some of those and we'll try and see if we can share them. So, but Vicki, I want to be respectful of your time. We so appreciate you giving your insights to the broader community today. And for folks who have other questions, you can take a look at, I think it's called ASU for You is the new website that's unveiled, where all the digital resources. So if you need to create an online lab, which is something most campuses are struggling with, ASU has one. They have a digital high school. They have all of these resources that any institution could theoretically leverage. And if you go to ASU for You, you'll be able to take a look at those and identify, and then reach out to whoever would be able to support you in that at ASU.
Yeah.
And we are frozen again. Okay. All right. Well, I will let you go. And thank you again for your time. And folks, please feel free to post any comments or questions that you have, and we will continue to try and surface people who have all the answers to be able to assist in this challenging time. Otherwise, I will talk to you later.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.